Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Welcome back to the Private Lenders Podcast. Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers with a special guest, Shane Powers, good friend of mine, someone who has dramatically helped Chris and myself and Hard Money Bankers with a lot of the digital marketing that we've been doing. Known Shane for a long time, probably going on 7 or 8 years at this point. But as of just recently, he's really helped us improve some of our SEO rankings, some of the paid traffic that we've been doing on Google and on Meta, YouTube, Instagram, things like that. And that's really led to increased, local lead flow for our company, Hard Money Bankers. We're all very passionate about marketing, and it's important to get as many deals and leads in the door. So I wanted to bring Shane on, talk about some tactics that we're doing, some low-hanging fruit stuff as well of what kind of every hard money lender and private lender should be doing kind of in the digital marketing umbrella space. And we're going to dive in. Shane, thanks so much for tuning in, sharing some experiences with me today. Why don't we just start off with a quick background, who you are and things like that?
Sure. Yeah. Great to be here. So I've been doing, some form of digital marketing for going on probably 20 years, and self-taught on a lot of it. Just been, teaching myself everything from search engine optimization to website development to paid ads on YouTube and Google and Facebook and Instagram and kind of every platform. So I've done that on my own for a number of years. And then around the pandemic, I took an offer to go work doing search engine optimization for Guitar Center, and was on a team for a couple of years there that was responsible for, managing upwards of $6 million a year in paid spend, but also in, managing search engine optimization and content creation for a couple of different brands in the Guitar Center umbrella.
No doubt. We want the secret sauce. Everybody wants the secret sauce of like, hey, how do I show up everywhere on Google and on YouTube and Facebook? And, what ads do I put up there? And how do I just put a website on and all of a sudden people just flock to my website? And, it's challenging. And I think a lot of listeners and viewers that have followed us for years at Hard Money Bankers and Hard Money Mastermind, they know like we're marketing heavy and we do a lot of stuff on a regular basis. And, some of the stuff we're very active with ourselves, but other things like we need help with, things are changing. We ran Google AdWords probably week one of Hard Money Bankers in December 2007. And like, it's very different. It's very different and things are constantly changing and it's hard to stay up on that. I want to go through, obviously part of this episode is to talk about low hanging fruit of how other hard money lenders can, benefit from doing digital marketing. And I think you mentioned earlier, kind of before we went live, was it really depends on where they're at inside their business, right? Like,
yep.
If somebody's just starting out, they might not be able to afford a high budget. They might want to do some of the less expensive things that can still kind of get the phones ringing quickly. Like, let's just say, and I think we should target a few different avatars here as we go through this. But let's just say somebody's kind of just starting out, and let's say they have like less than $2 million deployed on the streets. So they have a few loans, they're a hard money lending company, and they really want to kind of like, they don't really have any web assets. They're not really doing much content at this point. They're like, hey, I know this is important. Like, what are a few things to think through?
Sure. And I mean, I will say that, like, I think one of the reasons that like you and I and Chris hit it off so quickly was because you guys had a lot of experience trying and doing things and testing and learning and throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what would stick. And then like looking at the data. And I mean, that's kind of at the heart of everything that I do and I talk about. And I will say that like the foundation of the stuff that you guys do, which is talking on camera and on video and in podcasts about your customers' problems and things that will, things that they need help solving, is kind of the backbone of everything that I do. And I think it's one of the things that, can find you the right audience that's genuinely interested in what you do and wanting to stick around and pay attention for a long period of time. So that is a baseline, is something that I think that everybody who's trying to market themselves online should be doing in some form or another, especially in 2025. But let's imagine you got a relatively small fund and you're doing stuff like going to like RIA groups and like doing a lot of like in real life networking and marketing, and you kind of want to move to some aspect of online. If you're gonna do I always look at these things as, what would I do if it was my business? Like, what would get me the most return for either the least amount of effort, the least amount of spend, or that sort of thing. And you mentioned Google Ads. Like, that's one that if there are people who are actively searching online for what you do, that is the person who is the closest to converting in a lot of cases. So if you can inexpensively get basic campaign set up, even if it's very few keywords, but keywords that are really aligned with like, this is what our prospective borrowers are searching for, getting together a landing page or a basic website and paying to push that traffic through to a property that you control so that you can grab their contact information and then market to them over time, is the thing that I would be doing if I was starting off from scratch with very little budget, but was managing a fund and was trying to get more deals than beyond, kind of my local in-person circles. Google is very tricky. It is changing constantly. And like the thing that you could do today could be gone tomorrow. I do feel like that a lot of the platforms are pretty good at separating novice advertisers from their money. So one of the things that you have to sort of be careful about is like not turning all the automations and all the placements on, but keeping like very, very tight targeting. In Google Ads, it's referred to as exact match keywords on things like hard money lender, hard money loans near me, or something like that. That's your prospective borrower in your area, and then limiting the geographic targeting to very tightly knit around that area is probably where the highest like return on ad spend is going to be. That if you put $1 in, you could likely get $3, $4, $5 out. It's also where a lot of big competitors are. So like you gotta kind of know what you're doing and be careful and be very deliberate about what you're doing.
What do you think reasonably, and Chris and I are very transparent on this show, and open to help every hard money lender and private lender. So what so you can use some of our data as we're speaking. What have you seen? Like, what are some target cost per clicks, cost per acquisitions, for some of those keywords? And we can kind of talk through, the difference between AdWords, search, or some retargeting display, or some YouTube stuff, or even over into the meta platforms if you want.
Yeah, sure. I think that if we're just talking about hard money bankers and the variety of different markets that hard money bankers operates in, I think the average cost per click is somewhere between $8 and $10 per, and that's pretty tightly targeted. But it's that's across Maryland, New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Virginia, maybe, and
DC maybe too. Yeah.
Yep. And so literally like the competition in each individual market. It's an auction. So when there are more people bidding on that keyword, it drives the cost up. But in the event that you can convert a significant portion of that traffic, let's say you're converting at 6 or 7% of the clicks through to the landing page are submitting, and those people are highly relevant. They're people who are likely to borrow from you, even in the event that specific deal that they're looking to fund isn't the right one. One of the things that I think that's kind of great about hard money as an industry is some of your best submissions could end up funding multiple deals across the life of their interaction with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that kind of stuff, I think, takes some of the pressure off, like converting that person in the immediate moment to a paying customer. I think I'd have to check the math, but I think depending on the breaks and what the source is that those leads are coming from, they may be anywhere from like $50 or $60 per lead to $120 to $150 per lead, kind of depending on the market, depending on the competition, depending on the individual search term. But the kind of common thread with all of it is quality, is people who are actually legit real estate investors that are looking for what you guys do. And
I agreed, because we have paid traffic, we have organic traffic through lots of different channels, and the highest quality has just been Google searches. Obviously, when someone comes, they do research on it, on you, they click on your stuff. I mean, we've bought traffic or bought leads from other places that aren't exclusive. Obviously, they're cheaper than that, and you can spend time at RIA groups, meetup groups. I mean, collecting business cards and things like that. But you're right. It's about quality. I mean, I could go on to some other platforms I might not share and buy $35 leads all day long that are non-exclusive, and it takes a long time to go through them. I still do that because we have the manpower and the back end system to do. But the stuff that we're generating ourselves, it's just higher quality. And I think, you could probably add to this as well, but I think one of the things that's really important that I think a lot of folks forget is step one is generating that lead, but like step 2, 3 to 100 is following up, in a very disciplined manner. So, do they get an auto text message when they fill out that loan application? Do they get an auto email? Do you send them? Do you call them? Within the first few minutes, what type of email nurture sequence do you have across the board? So I think that's important as well, because, if you're trying to get into this space, you're going to be like, well, if I got to spend $100 to get a lead, even if I have a high closing ratio, like you can spend real money on it, but you got to look at that as, getting somebody into your business, getting somebody into your store, hypothetical storefront. Right? Like it's worth a lot of money in order to convert them and have a system in place that, in a year from now, maybe they don't have a deal or they're not qualified at this time, but in a year from now, you're still in front of them. And when they have that deal, you'll get that. And then cha-ching, all of a sudden, it covers your ad spend. And that's something that we're very aware of.
I mean, you hit on like 4 or 5 incredibly important things, like the immediacy of the follow-up is kind of a thing that's like known by people who do lead generation and interact with, things like call centers and that sort of thing. But like across loads of different industries, it's incredibly important that like, if you're getting a lead in, that you're contacting it right away and talking to it. Just from like a business perspective, another thing that you kind of hit on that we kind of glazed over is that there's a significant, because of the way that you and Chris have been running the business for a number of years, that you've been putting out content that genuinely helps people solve problems without really an ask associated with it. That leads to a significant amount of branded searches for hard money bankers, which is something that not everybody has, is like that level of brand recognition. And something that in 2025 is going to be, and beyond, is going to be considerably more important with like how prevalent AI is with making, new content and that sort of thing. If the bar is being raised by like that, the bare minimum to make a quality piece of content is, it's getting easier and easier, and the content that's out on the internet is getting better and better. One of the things that's going to be a differentiator is like, do people know who you are and do they trust you? And when, I don't know how many episodes you and Chris have put out, but like if we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of, I'm sure thousands of hours of you guys talking to people, both in the form of like online, but also like in the past meetup groups and all that kind of stuff, it all translates to people knowing who you are, trusting you. Having a less of a barrier to submitting once they click, because they're familiar with who you are and what you do and all that kind of stuff. So if we want to kind of jump ahead, like if we want to use that as a segue to like, if you're a little bit bigger and you've been paying for paid search clicks and you're generating leads from that, and you've kind of hit a ceiling, like if it was my business, what's the next thing that I would be doing? I would be trying to build trust and authority with an audience of real estate investors in my area, making content similar to what you and Jason have been doing for years. And what I see like a variety of people in the Hard Money Mastermind group doing too is make original content, like whether it's for TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, most likely in vertical format. I would, be getting comfortable, pumping out that content, do it with starting with content that's related to the common problems and the things that resonate most with the people who are buying from you. Start with that, like a sort of frequently asked questions kind of content. Start with that, and then, let's just say Facebook ads can get you views with, like, let's say you wanted to target all the people in the state of Maryland and anybody who has an interest in real estate investing related content. You can limit by that interest. You can show them that video. You can optimize for a longer video view, meaning that like the people that the algorithm optimizes for people who are watching more than 15 seconds. The idea there would be that like the interest indicates that the people are some of the right audience. And then over time, you'd be attempting to target those people, consistently ping them with relevant content so that they'd want to subscribe or follow your page or click through to your website and learn more. The other thing you can do is you can build a custom audience with people who are the most engaged viewers, and then target those people and push them through, to forms that are pre-qualifying forms, or like a loan application, or any number of things that would indicate a next step in the process.
So let me just reiterate that a little bit as well. So in essence, and I think we're doing, you're helping run some of this for us as well, is there's a content piece that somebody puts together as a reel or long form, short form, whatever it is. Either myself or Chris will put something like that together, explain hard money lending, how it works, interview a real estate investor, something of value, run pretty inexpensive traffic to that, right? There's not necessarily a call to action. It's just, viewership, watching this, getting interest. And then based on the length of their involvement in watching that video and their interest in watching that video, go back, target them into step 2, which is our offer, right? Like, come apply for a loan, learn more about Hard Money Bankers. And it's a way, in essence, to, because what are we getting on that? Few cent views, in the pennies. Yeah.
Depending on which niche. So like, if you're talking to a broader kind of real estate audience, anybody who's interested in real estate, it's going to be a little bit less expensive than maybe trying to find people who are hard money lending viewers. The idea being that like that is a slimmer niche of audience than a regular broad real estate audience. So when the more specific you get into who your target audience is, what tends to happen is the more expensive that it gets. But if they're highly relevant and more qualified, the extra couple cents per view more than makes up for it in engaged viewers and subscribers and all that good stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, have you seen any difference in quality between Google stuff and Meta stuff?
It's kind of a mix, and I am kind of the camp that both of them have been doing a variety of things that lead to like not so great content and a big volume of it. So with both platforms, what I tend to do is I tend to like get very specific in who I want to be talking to or who I want to see our message, and then expand slowly out from there. The alternative with this is that we ran into a lot of problems at a couple of my past jobs with just really, really spammy submissions. And most of those submissions tended to be that like we'd run traffic, we'd get really, really, really inexpensive leads from sources like display ads on Google. And then when we'd look at the CRM and we'd see all of the leads and we'd try to determine like, is this a real person? Can we get them on the phone? Have they opened up an email? Have they shown like any evidence that they're a real human that's interested in what we're doing? The results were pretty bad. And like what I've done, since then, like in the last like handful of years, is I've started off like very finely targeted on people who matched the ideal customer, and then only expand based on like good performance, so that like at the lowest possible scale, this is the right person, the cost is where we want it to be, and then scale up slowly from there as a means to try to keep like bad visitors or viewers from foreign countries or bots from gobbling up ad spend and wasting it and not providing returns. And it's one of the things that like I've kind of, we kind of glossed over it, but like I've worked in roles with agencies as a freelance person, as an in-house person, and across all of those things, the one thing that I feel like the one thread that's kind of common between all of them is that if you're not careful, you can waste a lot of money doing lead gen and not get qualified leads. And if then the next question is, well, how do you go about getting qualified leads? I don't know of any other way other than like paying attention to the submissions and then paying attention to what happens in the CRM or in nurture campaigns to determine like, is this a real person? Are they qualified? So like, when we get a new lead in through the website and I send you a text being like, what did we get? 3 leads yesterday? And you're like, yep. And I'm like, are they good? Like, that's literally me trying to make a feedback loop for myself to determine are the activities that we're doing aligned with the business goals before we start ramping up.
Yeah, exactly. On all new campaigns, it's the same setup like that. And, full disclosure, middle of last year, we were kind of like writing Google off and stating, hey, this isn't working. This doesn't work anymore. And that's kind of when, middle of last year or so that, reached out to Shane and be like, hey, we really need some help, with some of this stuff because, I know there's a lot of low hanging fruit out there. When we started back in the day, we were able to kind of just put campaigns up, and even if they weren't optimized that much, we were still able to get good leads, good traffic. And I think everybody did. And we were, and even with, and here's the thing, like, it's not accurate that Google reps might even know what they're doing on some of these things. I probably shouldn't say that publicly, like on the airwaves.
I would say it, yeah.
But they don't, like, it's tough. And like we would have monthly or quarterly things with reps, and they're just basing it off of their metrics. And I'm like, yeah, but these aren't good leads. Like these are like, and we even got to the point that we were even going to, in essence, like ban IP addresses from certain areas from even coming to our website because we were getting flooded with leads and it was screwing up all our metrics. And then, Shane dug in, mid last year and was like, dude, there's a lot of things we need to rebuild. And it also was kind of overlapped with our site getting hacked that we had to rebuild anyway. So it's like, you know what, let's rebuild the foundation, start from scratch. And that's why I'm confident that, a lot of newer hard money lenders, can benefit from doing the same kind of thing. And obviously with old, backlinks and content and things like that, like that's obviously more helpful, but it's not, obviously it's not an overnight thing, but at the same time, it doesn't take years and years and years. Like you can start building stuff pretty quickly, with content. Do you have anything else on this topic? Cause I want to add one other thing, but
I'd say, the thing that you said about the Google reps, I think it's true. And I think that we just need to acknowledge that, like, I'm a fan of Google. I've made my, a lot of my adult life, working with Google, like working with multiple different Google reps, like selling, like convincing businesses to run ads on Google. There is loads of money to be made with Google ads for a lot of small businesses if you do it correctly. The only problem that I have with some of the Google reps is that when the incentive isn't aligned with the small business owner and the small business owner is trusting the Google rep who is giving them advice that's basically like, turn on this setting and make your advertising way broader and start counting this as a conversion where somebody clicks to get directions to drive to your business, where like that might not be a thing that you want people doing. And in my experience with the Google reps is that lots of them don't tend to, they tend to be third parties that are acting on Google's behalf. And they tend to, I think, be incentivized by get these small businesses to do these things to their account that ultimately benefits Google. And I think if you're going to do that, you just need to be skeptical and ask questions. And if the explanation doesn't make sense, like maybe you need to not be turning on that setting that the rep is sort of pushing you towards in a 15-minute call once a month. How much good advice can you get from something like that? Especially when you're talking about like thousands of dollars in ad spend potentially a month. It's always good to be careful and to kind of be skeptical.
But there's good traffic from it. And it's just a matter of, just like anything else, it's like being in the hard money lending business. You kind of have to like jump in and dive in and learn it, or maybe not you personally, but somebody, on our end, it's been Shane, and figuring it out of this is what's working better than others. And nothing wrong with that. So I wanted to figure out how you think SEO, search engine optimization, ties into all this. We kind of talked about the paid segment of it. Do you think that they overlap? Do you think it's a separate segment? We've tried a lot of SEO stuff over the years. And it was always hard to determine if it was monetized, or it was just hard to, determine the results. Anything from, obviously creating lots of blog, on-site and off-site. So a lot of blog posts, doing some on-site stuff, article spinning, all kinds of stuff, I'm trying to think what, backlinking, stuff like that. We've had a conversation because listen, in a perfect world, it's very easy for any of us to be like, hey, let's just use AI and get 100 articles written in 1 minute and just automatically post them to your site, because WordPress and all the other platforms have that ability where in essence, you just put in a keyword and 100, articles, blog posts, pages will automatically be spun up and uploaded right to your website. And I know that's kind of a two-part question, the SEO side plus like the AI stuff, which, might not be the best idea, but like, how do you think SEO kind of plays into this?
So I think those two things are interconnected. And I think like the average person being able to generate an article on a subject that is probably better than the average human writes an article with relatively zero effort is going to completely change, how people are going about making website content. So that's a pretty significant change in the last 2 years. And I've used a lot of the tools. I've used it to help generate outlines for content. I've used it to help generate content. I think at the core of the thing, the way that I think about it is, at the end of the day, you're attempting to talk to a human about a subject that that they're interested in, normally because they have a problem to solve. So the thing that I think about SEO and as it relates to pay-per-click is there is loads of data inside of your Google Search Console dashboard, and then inside of your Google Ads dashboard that can tell you in close to real time, like the exact phrases that people are searching for. And then you could take that phrase, open up Google, type that phrase in, and then see what the best ranking results are. See whether it's a blended result, meaning that like there's Google My Business profiles and businesses with reviews, but also like articles. And now there's a variety of AI tools that can kind of summarize like what you would need to write in order to rank for that thing. So if we take an example from Hard Money Bankers and we say something like, Maryland hard money lender, or like hard money loans in Maryland, both of those variations of the same keyword. It's probably the same target audience. It's probably one page. And that is probably a click that we want to pay for via pay-per-click, but also in the medium or long term, a thing that we want to try to rank for organically, so that in the event that somebody searches for that phrase, we have an ad at the top of the page, and we have an organic somewhere lower down, most likely below the fold, because of how much real estate Google has been giving ads in the last little bit. I think a constant, if I'm doing it like it's my business and I own it, one of the things that I'd be looking at is how can I be constantly making like highly relevant and high quality content, either in the form of blog posts or individual web pages or YouTube and Facebook and videos. How can I be sharing that stuff so that it gets in front of an audience that it will genuinely be interested in it and get value from it? And then how can I follow those people around on the internet in a way where all of those pieces all work together and are all interconnected? So in an ideal world, if somebody searches for something like that and hits one of those local landing pages, there's a variety of your current videos embedded on those pages that will potentially give those people the ability to go and binge a whole bunch of real estate or hard money lending related content that you guys have already made. And, just anecdotally from us talking about it, like the amount that it seems like that people who find the videos and enjoy them tend to watch a whole bunch of them all at once feels like a pretty strong indicator that when we reach the right people, that it's resonating with them, because they go, oh, I'm going to go watch a second and a third and a fourth episode of the podcast, one after another.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because like you're down that you're down that funnel of, just like anything else, right? Like you're on Instagram and then you start following somebody and you're like, oh crap, all day long I'm into this. And that's when and if you can do it, when you catch yourself doing that, if you kind of reverse engineer it and be like, hey, how can I catch somebody in it? Like, hey, I'm talking about, finding properties or finding money to fix and flip properties, or how does real estate investing work?
Or finding new investors, or how to find more leads. All of those things are all problems that are potentially associated with the people who will be consuming.
And we don't, actively market for private capital, but like I'm guessing if someone wanted to and they wanted to do that compliantly, it's kind of the same channel, and there's folks in our Hard Money Mastermind community that do try to raise capital through social media and through ads, and they do it compliantly. And it's not like, hey, I can make you a high rate of return. It's, hey, look how other lenders are, investing in real estate, investing in private notes and things like that. So,
I mean, and obviously, like, there's a whole bunch of compliance questions that,
Sure.
This is not advice for anything compliance related, but like, I as opposed to saying, here's how you can get X return on Y amount of investment, I would be, I would lean more heavily towards content like some of the things that you share in the Hard Money Mastermind group, where it's, here's what a recent deal looks like.
No
Just
doubt.
literally talking about the things that you're doing in a way that's useful, to members of the group and to people who might be interested in joining the group. And it kind of aligns a variety of different ways. I mean, I think, the biggest thing with all of these channels is like finding those people who are genuinely interested in what you do and wanting to hear from you. And I do think with a lot of the platforms, because of how finicky the algorithms are and how much all of these platforms are constantly changing, you really have to have a method for getting them off of the platforms and into a system that you control. And with you guys, you had an email list that you guys have been building for, a decade basically. That is exactly what we're talking about. That's a system that you control, that you can communicate with those people for close to next to nothing, except for the effort and the time that it takes to write the emails and send them and all that kind of stuff. But
no, and I think that's the goal. And if there's multiple layers, I don't think a lot of people have multiple layers of like traffic of, it's kind of like, hey, show an ad, have a call to action. And that's fine, but like that doesn't necessarily going to convert perfectly every time. Like maybe it makes more sense to nurture them of run that ad, create credibility, right? Show, have them follow your stuff, then maybe ask them for an email address, right? And offer them something for free. We use the 7 steps to guaranteed hard money loan approval, or a free deal analyzer or something, right? And it's like, hey, just put in your email address. Not going to, you don't have to pull out a credit card. It's going to be easy. Do that. Right. And then the next step is, okay, wow, these guys know what they're doing. They're local to me. They said I can potentially set up a meeting with them, blah, 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 blah. Now fill out a loan application. Now you have more information, because after they fill out a loan application, I can text them. I can email them. I can pick up the phone and I can call them. We can do voice broadcasts. Like we have so much flexibility. And in a perfect world, I'd love to just, cast a net and throw an ad out there and get a loan application with 15 fields filled out and you have everything you ever need. But sometimes it's not that easy. And, it ends up potentially even being cheaper to do it in the different steps as well, right? Because, your conversions are higher. And you're weeding out the people that don't qualify anyways.
And they may not be ready right now. They may have a deal that you don't want to do right now, but if you can get them inside of the system and you can talk to them and you can say, hey, great to meet you. This one's not going to be it for us, but like we're here for your future deals, and it was great talking to you. Like all of that kind of trust building and relationship building is all most of the best performing stuff on the internet. It really is not about gimmicks and kind of shortcuts. It's really about like finding the right people and then connecting with them.
Yeah, man, this has been freaking awesome. For those of you guys don't know, Shane's actually coming to speak at some of our upcoming events. He's coming to our May event and he's coming to our June event in Maryland, where we both live. So if you're interested in coming to an upcoming event, just go to hardmoneymastermind.com and click on events tab. There are a few openings in the June event, which is, in Maryland, just outside of Baltimore, between DC and Baltimore. So easy travel, easy hotel, things like that. But, he's going to do a presentation for the group and kind of just go into more detail about all this stuff and some of the exact things that he's doing with us. I mean, we've, as we talked about, like we're transparent, and Shane's asked me multiple times because he's, worked with other hard money lenders in our community and chatted with other private lenders, in our community. And he was like, hey, you guys open to share your results with them, so I can just use that as to help them to see some of these things. And we're transparent. Like that's what it's about. That's what we're all here to help each other grow. And, it's good to have kind of a blueprint, as you go into this. And, again, some people are in different levels. Like some of the stuff that we're at now that Shane and I work on is, hey, I think we can up budget. Can you throw another $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month towards some of this stuff to get more leads? And it's like, yeah, if we can get these things converted, excuse me. Yeah. And then while others, might only, might have a smaller budget and, they want to work on some of their, on-page SEO stuff or, some articles and maybe just content, right? Just to get kind of the ball rolling, because let's be honest, like everybody can't handle unlimited leads anyways. Like you're wasting money. You're wasting money if you can't handle some of the leads. When I say handle, I don't mean like call them real quick, but like put them in a nurture sequence, because in a perfect world, a borrower will call me on the phone today and they'll have a loan that needs to close in a few days under contract, ready to go. But that's not what happens, right? Like I get lucky if there's a deal like that. My partner, Ryan, texted us this morning and said, hey, I got a 1-day close deal. Like, it might be coming into the pipe. It's like, excellent. Let's do it. Like title work's done. We'll race out our inspector this afternoon. Like that's great, but it doesn't always happen. A lot of these deals take time, and, we try to do a good job tracking them. And I mean, I remember we closed a loan for a borrower that was in our email database for like 10 years. It took 10 freaking years. And I mean, nobody wants to hear that. And that's an extreme example, but a lot of the leads that we get take months and months and months and months and months before like they have that right deal or they're ready or they're things like that. So this has been awesome, Shane. Anything else you want to add, or do you want to give everybody your contact information of, how they can find you, whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like, if anybody, wants to get in touch, they can, comment on the video and, or if they're Hard Money Mastermind members, send me a message.
Start a mastermind group.
Yeah. Start a chat in the group, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If any of the group members, have specific lead gen or Facebook ads or Google ads or YouTube stuff. But that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Asking the mastermind group, and Shane's in there, and like Shane's learned this business model, and he's pretty high level at this point. Just because you're in it, right? You're seeing what's out there. You're seeing the keywords. You're seeing the audiences. You're seeing what the leads look like when they come in. I've also probably watched like 200 episodes of your guys' podcast over the last like 7 or 8 years. So, I was telling somebody that the other day, and they were like, "What?" I was like, "Oh yeah, like literally every time it pops up in my feed, I listen to my buddies talk, on all sorts of real estate and hard money lending related subjects." But
this one will probably be out. This one we'll try to get out by next week, so you can listen to it.
Yeah, especially if any mastermind members have questions that they'd like covered in the inner circle stuff. please leave a comment, inside of Hard Money Mastermind, and happy to incorporate any of that stuff into the stuff in May or June.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to that. I appreciate it, man. This has been great. I don't know why we didn't do this episode sooner. I reached out a few days or last week and was like, dude, we should just hop on and start rapping about this. Maybe we'll do another follow-up as well. If this video gets a lot of comments and likes and questions, on it, if there's specific questions that people want us to dive into a little bit more, Shane's an open book. I'm an open book.
Yep.
So happy to do so. All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
For the time. Yep.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.